Hello, this is a mandala. This here is a mandala as well. I'm going to give a little bit of talk for a few minutes on Huber astrology, Huber astrological psychology, which was developed by the Hubers. A lot of empirical research using the wisdom teachings of Roberto Assagioli and psychosynthesis. There's some great books. The main course book, if you're interested, is Astrological Psychology, the Huber Method, available on the APA website. This is the actual direct diploma main textbook. I'm going to speak a little bit about aspect patterns as well. So this is a fantastic book that was released in the past year or so. And I'll explain what aspect patterns are. First off, though, is to look at the idea of a mandala. In Huber astrology, we use color in a very precise way. First thing we do when I am getting ready for a consultation is I will set up the charts and I'll actually draw them out and I'll look at the image within this chart here. So never mind in traditional astrology, modern astrology, first thing we tend to do is race off to the ascendant, or we start looking at various planets and signs. Unfortunately though, that loses itself because as an entire individual, we want to represent the whole kind of driving engine room, that holistic perspective of the individual. That is contained within this aspect structure in the middle of the chart here before we get into any signs. So before we worry about, if your sun is in Taurus or Aries or whatever the case may be, any of those combinations, we're simply dealing with this aspect structure here. And there's some really strong processes for working with them and understanding what this aspect structure is, a systematic way of negotiating every chart. First thing I'll do though is really look for an image. First thing I did with my chart when I was drawing it, going through my studies, was come up with an image. And for me, I'm not sure if you can see this, it represented a boat and it was moving from the bottom of the chart, like those old steamships, if you will, with the sails and the smokestack coming out of it, moving from the bottom of the chart to the top. I'll actually form an image based on your chart, or we can do it together, and then I will usually look up the etymological kind of words for that and kind of play with the symbolism a bit so we can get into the chart at a much kind of sensed and intuitive level. That's the first thing we do. Next thing we do is we start to differentiate the chart, and there is a systematic way of doing this. First thing we do is look at the chart, this white center right in the middle. This white center, we never draw any lines through it, respecting that you actually have a soul or an Atman, divine spark, whatever language you choose to use, but we leave it empty. There's an intentionality that is coming from that center and is manifesting itself, expressing it in that next layer out, at level 2 here, and that's representing an aspect structure. So that aspect structure is your actual engine room, it's your unconscious motivations. And as we know about unconscious motivations at a very deep depth psyche level, the more we can understand about those motivations, we can identify with them. We can then become the orchestrator, integrate them, serve their needs rather than being victims of their whims. Very powerful stuff. Only astrology can do this. The third layer out is where we start to get into the signs. So there you see Venus in Cancer. That's where your sun in Taurus would be, for example. And the fourth layer out are the signs. So at this level, you're getting into a lot of inherited energies. The signs are further away from the core. Anything closest to the core here, the centrality, is more personal, more ours, more representative of that kind of self. The further we get out, it is ourself as well too, but these are more inherited energies that we pick up and have stored along the way. The last layer out is level 5, and I usually there's usually an energy curve around here, but these are actual areas of life. Everywhere is from our vocation to our family, our roots, our self, our relationships, what we need to get back to society, our chosen groups of friends, learning, higher learning, you name it. So it's all in there. The first thing, switching gears now into looking at the chart, is we look at different colors and we want to kind of focus in on where the juice is. By juice I mean 3 different colors. We look at blue for, if you think of the color blue in terms of fixed ideas, of kind of lethargic, of being, of relaxing, you know, the ocean, of that type of thing. We look at the ratio of blue colors to red. And if you think of red, you can think of doing energy, of cardinal drive, that type of thing. And green. The last color, green, represents kind of conscious awareness, building, sensing, that type of approach. Those three colors, we want to look at their ideal ratios within each chart to see what makes you tick. Are you more of a state of being person? Are you an absolute full drive of energy, or is conscious raising, awareness, sensing more your thing? So in this chart, you're seeing a lot of blue. So that represents, obviously, somebody with a lot of kind of being energy. This is just a hand-drawn kind of non-representative chart. This gives you an idea of the color of red within a chart. So when we're primarily seeing red colors, there's that motor drive energy. They can not sit still. When we're looking at it from this very macro perspective, it's very important because we can break down a chart and see what their entire life's motivation is coming from a central core, rather than just one planet and aspect. It's much more deeper and effective, actually, as well, too. And there's our green. So within each chart, if I show mine again, you can see that there's various color combinations. I have pretty much you can probably not really tell the colors, but my overall kind of color signature is red and green. So it's doing and sensing, a little bit of blue in the right areas, just enough to make me relax. But overall, my kind of process is this state of kind of hyper doing and sensing. So I need to always remind myself to chill. The next thing we look at beyond color is the shaping. So there's three main types of patterns. Most people are combinations of all three. The first one would be linear. So if you just have a bunch of lines in your chart, that's real go driving energy. And I realized this is where contradictions come in, because what if you have a lot of linear drive, but it's blue? So it kind of this state of being, yet it's driven. This is where we have to unpack your chart, and it takes some bit effort, but we are full of contradictions. But there's usually a good juicy kind of way of differentiating each chart. The next type of pattern you would see would be, or shaping, would be quadrangular or kind of square. And if you think of that, you know, he or she are so square, that's the kind of idea you get. There's this level of homeostasis. I need security, a fixed, caution, that type of a thing. I mean, again, you can get into contradictions with this, but largely that's what you can see at this very unconscious motivation level. A level of kind of security needs, keeping things status quo is what's needed. Lastly, we have mutable or kind of triangular. So you think of this dynamic triangle and fluidity. It's adaptable, it's connection oriented, that type of thing. So there's no kind of usual, well, there are actually cases where charts can be completely linear, obviously kind of square, quadrangular, or triangular. But sometimes a lot of times they're a mixture of both. So we have to kind of unpack that and see where the real kind of shaping is. Beyond that, we also have a way of differentiating a chart in terms of where is the orientation. So I'll bring up mine again. If we look at my chart, you could overall see that it is, if I twist it the right way, this is the actual top of the chart there. You can see that it's operating in this manner. That is an unconscious motivation to want to climb to the top of the chart, to individuate. Vocation, higher learning, that type of thing are very, very prominent. They can still be prominent in other ways, but just want to look at the overall kind of life essence is about striving towards the top of the chart and having some, obviously, some deeper roots down here in the collective. Could be with the family and an orientation that kind of holds both. The other type of main direction would be horizontal, and that is when we see charts that are very, very representative of being more horizontal, so if the aspect patterns, the lines, that inner wiring were more horizontal, then we'd have an individual more kind of contained within connecting with others. Its relationships are more prominent and important, that type of thing. There can be contradictions with that as well too, but there is a way to differentiate and kind of systematically understand where the driving juice is. So when we combine all those together, Huber astrology goes far beyond just a pretty mandala. It's a scientific, rigorous process that combines art, science, and actual, provable, workable frameworks to understand our unconscious motivations. Anything we can raise awareness to and take from unconscious, make it a bit more conscious, is absolutely worth the effort. And I would highly recommend, no matter what form of astrology you study, modern, traditional, you name it, pick a branch, evolutionary, whatever, get your chart read in Huber. It's powerful. It won't contradict anything. It'll add a whole new layer of understanding within that aspect structure, and you will be thankful for that better understanding as well. Thank you.